Hey, I'm Shawn. This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. We break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life. Hey guys, my name is Shawn. This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. In this podcast, what we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life, change your business, change your career, but most importantly, it will change your life. And I'm really excited. We got a returning guest here, Wang Yip. Thank you for being back on the pod.
Thank you for having me.
I thought the last podcast went really well, and my ask to you was for me to get you here as much as possible. So I really appreciate you doing this the second time around.
No problem.
So listen, and guess what? You're like one of the first guests. I think you are the first guest to actually bring some dangerous ideas to the table. Usually I'm the one bringing the dangerous ideas, but you brought it to the table. So I really, really appreciate you. And I love what you have. So if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, Wang brought the heat. Okay, so the first dangerous idea, writing is a superpower. You believe that writing is a skill that everybody should know. And I know you as a prolific writer. Mm-hmm. So tell me why you think writing is a superpower.
Yeah, I think writing just enhances everything. So one of the books that I really enjoy, How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big, that's by Scott Adams.
Okay.
He talks about goals versus systems, but he also talks about some of these multiplier skills, and writing is one of them. So I've talked about this before in articles. We've also talked about it on our previous podcast as well. So when you have expertise, when you have a skill, when you have something that is desirable in the market, writing enhances that, right? You can write articles, you can write blogs, you can write other things, books, and it just multiplies whatever you already know into other channels. So first off, it's a multiplier skill. The second thing is I think it helps, at least me, but I think it helps a lot of people improve the clarity in their thinking. So
right.
When you don't know something about a topic, when I don't know something about a topic, I write about it.
Wow.
And I try to figure out.
But how do you write about something that you have no idea on what that's about? What are you going to write about?
Absolutely, yeah. So the first thing is you write down everything that you either know or don't know about it. And when you write those things out, then you start to structure it in a way that you can kind of see where the gaps are.
Yeah.
Right? So if I was writing about artificial intelligence, for instance, you could write about a lot about artificial intelligence. But for me, I know a little bit about the computers and the technology behind it, the machine learning, all of these things that kind of add up. But then I start to kind of think, okay, well, what do I actually know about machine learning? What do I actually know about computational power and how do GPUs and why is NVIDIA kind of the big market leader? I don't know all of these things. I've heard about them on the news, but when you write about it, you kind of go, well, what do I actually know about NVIDIA? What do I actually know about GPUs? And I don't know anything about them. And that's where you kind of start to go, okay, well, I know there's gaps in my knowledge, but I wouldn't have identified that unless I actually wrote about it, right? And actually saw these gaps.
Well, I would just get ChatGPT to write me about what AI is if I'm writing about AI.
Very meta of you.
Actually, on that piece, I wanted to ask you about the fact that now anybody can write because of generative AI.
Sure.
It's at our fingertips.
Sure.
What's your take as a prolific writer on people using generative AI to create their emails, their essays, their blogs, whatever it might be?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's
It's
awesome. Yeah, I think it's awesome to have this tool that helps basically overcome writer's block, right? Because if you're stuck on something, you can just put it into ChatGPT.
I was not expecting that answer, Wayne.
Oh, really? Well, I think there's some drawbacks right now, at least, with AI. So one of the drawbacks with AI is if you asked it for whatever, an essay or something like that, you just don't know if you can verify everything that it's generating, right? Because it's generating things. ChatGPT believes that this is true or this is factual. But when you actually get into it, you go, oh, this isn't true at all. This isn't personalized. This isn't contextualized. So as a writer, if you're using something like ChatGPT to write articles, you still need to go in, you still need to edit, you still need to add your own background context to it, right?
So on that note, if you think about your writing process,
sure.
What is your writing process now? And does that actually include generative AI?
So I like to use generative AI as a way to brainstorm different topics. So I'll think about one of the things that I'm thinking about, I don't have the article out yet, but smart is a verb. So that's the idea that I have. And what I want to do is, okay, so I have this idea. I have a mix of different, books and other kind of flashcards that I sort of have ideas that I've captured about this topic in general, but I want to see if I'm missing something, right? And so I use generative AI as a way to go, hey, I'm thinking about writing this article. I want to kind of structure it in a certain way. I want to think about, are there other topics that I might be missing or other books that I should use as a resource? So I use generative AI as sort of a research assistant in a way, right?
So do you think generative AI, like my take on generative AI when it comes to writing is that it should never be the output. It should never be the deliverable at the end of the day.
Right.
Right? To me, I don't think anybody wants to read anything from generative AI. I don't think we want to look at pictures from generative AI. I don't think we want to see videos from generative AI. But I believe that generative AI can be the starting point, right? Just like I said.
Yeah.
It can help with writer's block. I believe that you can create 100 different essays and then go through a creative process and then get a solution at the end. Because I just don't believe that we're going to want to read. It's not provocative enough. It's not compelling enough in order for us to use it as a, as something that somebody wants to read at the end of the day.
I would say not yet.
Not
right?
yet, exactly.
Of course, yeah.
No,
yeah.
Of course not yet. So like somebody asked me, about my writing process, and if I think about my writing process, I'm actually trying to start with something that's provocative. I'm trying to write something that will, get your blood boiling, draw that emotion out of you. That's what I'm trying to do as a writer, as a speaker, because what's the point? Otherwise, you can just get it through generative AI. And I believe that to me, that's the point of writing, is to get people moved at the end of the day.
So let's link this to, you said you're writing or you're thinking about this next book about status, right? How are you going to use AI as a way to help you with writing or are you going to use AI at all?
So I think
so hypothetically, if you're not writing about status, you can write about another topic, of course.
Yeah. So the way that I would approach this second book, which is about status, is I think from a research perspective, taking a look at what other folks have written on this particular subject so that I can reference those pieces in my particular book. So I think that's the main piece. When I wrote my first book, The Bold Ones, I didn't have access to ChatGPT.
Sure.
My manuscript was due April 2021, so I didn't have access to it, or April 2022 actually. And if I had it now, I would have. The way that I would go about writing something is I would just dump everything, and then I would help generative AI to clean it up a little bit, or to clean up the grammar, the punctuation, as an editor to speed things up. But to me, I would use generative AI as a research assistant, there's so many tools out there. One tool is called consensus.ai, and what it can do, it can look through scientific papers and curate some of the best papers around a particular subject, right? And in that way, it's not hallucinating because it's actually pulling the sources from those, particular. That's the key. So I think it's just going to speed up the process. But I don't think at this point, where we are right now in generative AI, that it can write something that will just that people want to read. And same thing when it goes to writing a keynote. Absolutely, I have not used generative AI for any keynote yet, because when you're speaking, I fundamentally believe that you have to be engaging, compelling, provocative every single time. You have to be able to get them to be engaged with what you're saying. Because if you're reading something that is basically spit out of ChatGPT, they're gonna fall asleep.
Interesting.
So that's my take on it.
So hypothetically, let's just say language learning models become significantly better, right? They're taking in all this.
Which they will.
Yeah, they will. They become provocative, interesting, engaging. At that point, would your stance change, do you think?
So first of all, I think it will. And it's already going to get there.
Sure. Okay.
And my stance will change. And I don't know how it's going to change yet. But if it can do what I can do now, then absolutely I would I would get it to help me come up with some of those provocative ideas, right? And I mean, at that point, I mean, I'm gonna look for plumbing jobs. I think I'm gonna look for an electrician job. It's an interesting question. I don't believe that the AI will be able to produce something that will be truly. I don't believe it yet. I just don't believe it's something that we will want to hear. Maybe read, but not hear, especially from a speaker. And this is something that just being a public speaker, running your own Toastmaster clubs, like there's something about speaking that you can't replace, because speaking is not about the words, but it's about the feeling at the end of the day. But you disagree. You think the AI.
No, it's not that I disagree. I'm just trying to think through. You've got your own bot, on ChatGPT. At some point, let's just assume that it does get engaging, interesting, provocative. You can create AI videos where it's just your face and your voice and everything is duplicated. I mean, you could record videos or these keynotes of you speaking. It's in your voice, right? I mean, I agree. I think the in-person experience, that can't be replicated by AI, obviously, right? There's obviously something different from being in person than watching a screen. But yeah, I just think, Forbes said that you're the best virtual keynote speaker.
Yeah, one guy did, but yeah.
Right? What if it was just a video of you and you just produced everything through AI? People can't tell the difference. Does that mean... right? That your role has fundamentally shifted.
But I think also our role as a viewer will change. So what do I mean by that? It's inevitable that AI is going to get better. It's inevitable that it's going to be able to create something that's provocative and beautiful. But at the same time, I think then the viewer is going to lean into something that's more authentic and more surprise and more spontaneity. So it's actually going to change how we view things. We're not going to look for something that's totally perfect and that's completely, because that's what generative AI can do. It can give you something that's perfect. But I believe that you're not going to be able, like, that's what we're going to crave for. We're going to crave for people screwing up, the spontaneity, the surprise, the live aspect to it. We're just going to lean towards that. So, that's my take on it. But listen, you brought another dangerous idea, which is this idea of, and I love this, which is what I call, which is going from 100 to 0, which is restarting again, which is starting from the bottom. And you ask a really interesting question, which is about how would you restart your career if you got out of university? I'd love
even before that, maybe,
or even before that.
Yeah,
so let me get you to answer this question first. If you were to restart your career, let's say what you took in university to start with, and then post-university, what would Wang Yip do?
So before we go back to the beginning, it helps to think about what the end goal is, right?
Okay, I like it.
So here's the end goal that I've been toying around with. I see content creators like Ali Abdaal. Do you know Ali Abdaal?
Of course,
he's a part-time YouTube creator.
And doctor. I think he's a full-time YouTuber now.
Yeah, he's a full-time YouTuber now, but he was a doctor. I think he was toying with this idea of, do I want to go full-time into content creation, or do I want to do part-time? Do I want to do full-time as a doctor, part-time as a content creator / doctor? I think he was doing part-time for a while, and then I think he shifted over to full-time. But one of the things that I've been thinking about, looking at that situation, is time is super valuable. And I know that's a really obvious thing, right? But a lot of us have full-time jobs. But in this kind of market, I think, people are just getting laid off, or, the companies are whatever it is, right? They're laying off people, firing people. Your job is not very secure. So I think a lot of people, or this is just my hypothesis anyway, are looking for things like side hustles or gigs or things like that to kind of boost their income or diversify their income sources. And in order to do that, I think you need some free time. You need time. So my end goal is to get a high-paying job, but work only part-time, so that, if you had let's just use numbers for instance. Okay, full-time job, you're making 100K, but you're working like 40 whatever hours, right? So if you were making, I don't know what it is, I haven't done the math yet, but let's say 120K, but you only worked 4 days, you can still make the same 100K, but now you actually have an extra day to do something else. So if you prioritize this kind of spare time, free time sort of idea, then if I went back into university, I'd look for these high-paying jobs, but try to find ways where I could do them part-time so that I have more free time to do something like a side hustle or a gig. And if that is the case, and if you're trying to think about these high-paying jobs, I mean, what are these high-paying jobs? Investment bankers, maybe as a doctor. I mean, I'm sure there's quite a few high-paying jobs, software engineer. So that's how I would approach it, is I would think about what I want to do as an end goal, prioritize that free time or that part-time kind of model so that I can then do some side hustles and then think about how do I want to structure my kind of university degree or my career path around that.
I don't like your approach.
That's not a surprise.
If we were to restart our career, wouldn't it be more valuable to find out what you love and at the same time what you're world class at, so that you can shorten the time for you to be world class at that particular thing, years down the line, for you to be able to fulfill your dreams. I see so many, I'm turning 40 this year.
Okay.
I see so many people that are 40 or turning 40. They have kids now. They are in a job, in a career that doesn't fulfill them.
Okay.
And they do other things to, they play pickleball, they do men's basketball. They're doing all this stuff in order to fulfill, passion, love for something, because they don't get that through their career.
Okay.
Their dreams are dead. They don't have any dreams. Their dreams are now for their kids. Their dream is for their kids to have dreams. And I think that's a tragedy. I think that not many people have the opportunity to do this, but I believe that we should have an opportunity to, should we get, Mo's got it? Okay. I just believe that we should have an opportunity to find something that we love to do. And because I see so many people, they get to the end. I mean, I don't know if the end is 40, but they're like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we would establish that early in their career to say, hey, the goal is to find something that you love. And if you can do that for the rest of your life, then you will find money out of it. You will be able to monetize yourself. You will, if you are world class at something, you will absolutely be able to make money at it. But that's, I think, what we should optimize for. But if you can't find that, because most people won't, let's be honest, most people won't be able to find what they're world class at. My suggestion is to do a whole bunch of different things, engineer your university to get involved, go to student groups, start something, start a startup, and then work in an environment where you can learn the most and where you can get punched in the face and build grit and resilience and learn how to learn so that you can eventually find something that you love. I think that should be how I would restart my career, is to optimize, not for status, not for finding something that will pay me the most, but but something that I will be fulfilled for. And I believe this to my core. And when I think about my kids, I'm like, I just want my kids to find something that they love to do. And I know this is a utopia, Wang, and not everybody can do that. Mm-hmm. But that's what I hope for my kids. That they can do something so they don't end up at 40 and look around and be like, I hate this. I'm just going to create these side hustles. I don't know. What do you think about this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I see your points. I mean, I don't think it's in conflict at all. I think we have different end goals, to be honest. And I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about is not everyone does find work fulfilling, like you said, but you don't have to find fulfillment in your work either. Right? There's a lot of people that work these high-paying jobs, and they're working the high-paying jobs because they're doing it to support their family, right? And they are doing it to their value is family. And this job just ends up being one of those things that it's a path towards fulfilling that value of prioritizing family.
But what is the end? You say the end. What is the end?
What is the end?
What are we talking about? The end? What is the end?
Yeah, the end is finding something that you're passionate about, I think, right? And finding something where you have this free time and you can use this free time as a way to, I mean, it's not, I say it's like a side hustle thing, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's something like family. Maybe it's something like teaching, volunteering, whatever. But you can use that free time because you have it. And I think the good thing about the way that I'm approaching this way of a part-time thing is everybody can, that option is available to most people.
Yeah.
Right? To negotiate with your employer and say, hey, like, you know, working 5 days a week, I want to work 4 days a week. And maybe there's a way to negotiate that so you still have your full-time salary, you're working more hours, whatever it is, but having that extra time to do something.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Having extra time to do something like a side hustle if you want, or spending more time with family or vacation or whatever it is. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just something that I've been thinking about. It's a dangerous idea. It's not something that everybody, I'm sure,
It is a
agrees
dangerous
with.
idea.
But it's a way for, you know, if you don't feel like you're fulfilled in your work, which I'm sure most people aren't, maybe there's a way to cut back on those things and to spend that free time doing something that you actually want to do.
But what if you just want to do something that you love and that could be part of your work? That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
why can't that be the starting point? Like,
Yeah,
I
that
wish
is
I
the
could
ideal.
find something that I could do.
That is ideal, but how many students come out of university knowing exactly what they want to do?
I agree.
Right.
Very few do.
I think you have to try it out, as you said, experiment. And a lot of the times, your ideal career does not follow your passion. And what I mean by that is a lot of the times you build up the skills and you build that passion
Right.
from a career that you are focused on, right? And people don't have the luxury of spending 10, 15 years working as a plumber and then going, yeah, I love plumbing, right? So you have to kind of, I mean, like you said, like in university, maybe experiment a lot and try different things and try to kind of go, okay, well, this area or this general industry is something that I'm interested in.
So I want to go back to, I started, the dangerous idea was like, what if you started again? What would you do?
Yeah.
So would you do this? Would you have this approach? How would you have actually restarted? Give me the actual specific thing
Sure.
that you would have done to restart and start from the beginning. Give some people at a university some advice on how they would do this.
Yeah. So I would take a look at the highest paying jobs or try to figure out, you know, where I want to live, where the highest paying jobs are. What are the occupations that have maybe the less they're as few as, what do I want to say, as little stress as possible, right? Things like that.
Okay.
Try to figure out, okay, which are the kind of types of jobs that I can sort of take these skills and maybe do something else with it. So, you know, something like, I don't know, doctor, something like a software engineer. I would also take a look at the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I try to think about, okay, well, how do I use these skills to produce assets, right? And if I can sort of tie all of these things together, then I think I'll be in a place. I might not be in a career or a job I love, but I'll at least be in a place where I can do different things, right? So from there, you kind of see, okay, these are the jobs that are the highest paying. Then I would focus my career or my university on trying to kind of work my way towards that path. I might not know if this is something that I enjoy, but at least I'm moving in that direction, right?
Right.
So let's just take, for instance, software engineer as an example. Obviously, I would go into computer science and programming and try to build those skills. I would try to experiment as much as possible with other clubs or other courses. I'd try to program and try to see, hey, can I program something? Can I build an app? Can I build something that is worth doing? Cal Newport, you know, when he was going through university, he published his first book, which is really
Wow.
interesting. Yeah. So he prioritized that over doing things like clubs and stuff like that because he saw that publishing a book
Yeah.
would get him to his end goal of being basically an accomplished author, a published author, much faster, right? So that's what I would do. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one flaw in this strategy.
Please.
Number one is you're starting to predict which jobs will be relevant for yourself or for anybody in the future when which jobs are going to be relevant in the future. Like, it's tough to predict which jobs.
Sure. Yeah.
And also, if you're mentioning, Naval Ravikant, I mean, his whole idea is the thesis of Naval is that you should not be working for anybody else. His thesis is that the best way of building equity is to work for yourself, is to work while you sleep. And so his whole thing is like, you should basically become a founder, an entrepreneur, so that you don't have to trade your time for money, and then you can, whether it's through products or.
Yeah. I mean, you can go that path, but not everyone's going to be a founder or an entrepreneur.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just saying
Yeah, and the other thing and there's nothing wrong, or at least I wouldn't think that there's anything wrong with working for a company, because working for a company gives you that runway to learn things and to build your skills and to build that network that might eventually be valuable for starting a company.
You want to hear a hot take?
Yeah.
I believe that it is going to be disproportionately more valuable to be an entrepreneur than an entrepreneur in the future. Why is that?
So much more valuable.
Yeah, that actually you're going to get more fulfillment being an entrepreneur versus an entrepreneur.
Okay.
You get all the upside being an entrepreneur by doing something that fulfills you, that doing something that you love, working with a really smart group of people, but having no downside in figuring out payroll and having the stress of the company. Because the reality is that when you're an entrepreneur, your whole business is based on survival. Like, that's how, and in a world where, you have generative AI, you can have competitors for anywhere, like, you're always living in that paranoia. And I just believe that it is, you see the speed of disruption just going faster and faster every single year. Your ability to create a competitive moat is just going to lessen every single year. So you're going to have that paranoia throughout, forever, for every single day. And so being an entrepreneur, you get none of that downside, but you have all the upside of maybe getting a high-paying job, maybe working a great team, being able to be fulfilled with your particular career, and have none of that downside. Because the real goal of becoming an entrepreneur is to have that freedom, but it's also to have the financial, freedom at the end. Like, so many entrepreneurs, they get to the end and they're wanting a payoff, right? They want to IPO or get bought out or something. When I think that end is becoming way harder to get today. It used to be, back in the day, you could run like a great machinery company, and then you'd see somebody want to buy it later on. I just feel like because of the speed of technology, it's so much harder today. So an entrepreneur can actually be more valuable than an entrepreneur, and maybe people should go for that. What do you think of that take?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting take. I mean, I don't know if I would agree that it's more valuable. There's obviously more risk that comes from being an entrepreneur, but you get the upside as well from that risk, right? You can't.
What I'm saying is that the upside of becoming an entrepreneur today, I agree with you. It's more lucrative and more valuable to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm just saying today, and as we move to the future, your ability to create a competitive advantage is going to lessen. So it's almost like you have to take a way bigger risk. And of course, you're going to get a way bigger reward, but it's like so much harder to do today. It is. It has to be. Like, look at generative AI. I believe when it comes to generative AI, anything that is digital will be replicated. An image, a video, an app, a website. Imagine an app that you spent billions of dollars on can be replicated by all the code. It can just go through all the different screens, recreate all the UX and UI, and it's there.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? It can already do that with images.
Sure.
And you can already put something into generative AI with like a game, and it can recreate it. Like, at some point, it's going to be able to recreate anything. So where is your moat? Where is your differentiator? And if you're an entrepreneur, especially in the digital world or internet world, like, it's going to be so much harder to have a competitive advantage. It's a dangerous idea when he's...
It's an interesting one.
Okay, yeah, I saw you brought this book here, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the story of Philo Farnsworth, and I think it's actually quite applicable to... Where's the camera?
Okay, yeah, there you go.
The Crux. The Crux is written by Richard Rumeltz. He wrote Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. So I'll just go through the bullet points of here. So Philo Farnsworth, he was born 1906 in Utah. He had he was at a farm in Idaho.
Yep.
He was working with electric generators, motors. He began to take them apart, figure out how they worked. He'd read everything he could find. So in high school, he showed his chemistry teacher his ideas for an image dissector, quote unquote. It's a vacuum tube with an electron gun, deflector plates, and a cesium oxide screen. So it's the predecessor for a TV. And the teacher took notes, which is really important here. So 7 years later, he was a student at Brigham Young University. He filed a patent for a television system. He was 22 years old. So in 1929, he was able to demonstrate the transmission of an image of his wife through his technology, but there's a problem. So RCA was leading our radio revolution. They had acquired a 1923 patent by Vladimir Swerkin for an iconoscope, which is a design for a TV camera. So there's problems with the patent. And that application was denied by the patent office because there's no evidence that the device worked, and it didn't yet. So this is the RCA application for their patent. So RCA offered to pay Farnsworth $100,000 for his patent. And then Farnsworth said, no, this is a lot more valuable than $100,000, so he refused. So RCA challenged Farnsworth's patent in court, and Farnsworth lost 2 rounds, but then he won when the patent office granted him priority. And the reason they granted him priority because his chemistry teacher's notes were evidence. So the chemistry teacher had documented, hey, this is what Farnsworth was working on, showed up in court, and so it showed that he had thought of this idea and all of this concept way before RCA did, which is really interesting.
Wow.
And Farnsworth went to work with the competitor, Philco. Now, Zorkin, working for RCA, had then improved his design, patented the kinescope, and that became the standard for the early television industry. And Farnsworth would try to sell his own TV system, but he couldn't sell too many sets. He continued to invent. He collected more than 300 patents, but he died at 64 after being bankrupted by his last unsuccessful business venture. So, interesting thing about this is you could be the originator of an idea, you can execute really well, but because you don't have all the resources, and this is the entrepreneur versus entrepreneur idea, you don't have all the resources to support that system, and you're not at the right time in the market, you could fail. And that's what this kind of story shows.
So it's like you have everything. You have the invention. You have the right idea, but
you don't have all the support
right
structures around. So
and that's why it's so difficult to become an entrepreneur.
Similar idea, the iPhone. Right time, right place. iPhone wasn't the first smartphone, touchscreen smartphone even. But because Apple they got the contracts with AT&T, right? They got all that support around what the mobile subscription was. Internet was and wireless internet and cellular internet was in a place where it was fast enough to actually get something on your phone, right? All of these factors came into play, which made the iPhone really. I mean, obviously there was other factors, but these are the things that really helped the iPhone get a lock in that smartphone market, right?
And it just reminds me of all the difficulty. By the way, amazing passage. Thank you so much for bringing that. I got to read that book. Incredible. And what I love about it is that the idea that how hard it is, right?
Absolutely.
And Farnsworth actually never got the fame, recognition, or money that he deserved from this. And when I was reading about Farnsworth, it reminded me of Vincent van Gogh because Vincent van Gogh, incredible artist, his best work came at the end of his career. And actually he died and all his work became relevant like after he died.
Yeah.
So he got all the fame and recognition. Like there's like, we're going to like Vincent van Gogh museums and he never saw any of that. And so it's so fascinating that it's so hard to become an entrepreneur because you got to get the product, you got to get the timing, you got to get the support, you got to get the resources, and you got to get like the market. You got to get people to buy into what you are doing. So it's so hard to do. And, you know, this brings up, and are you reading this because of strategy? Why are you reading this book?
Yeah, it's because of the strategy kind of part of it. So really interesting. So his other book, his previous book, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, talks about what a good strategy and what
is a good strategy? What is a bad strategy?
So a bad strategy, for instance, and this is why I was thinking about consulting, is we often go and we develop a strategy for our clients. And the strategy is, here's the vision, here's the mission statement, right? If you Google strategy template or strategy documents, you'll find these vision, mission, okay, we need some goals. That is not a strategy. KPIs are not a strategy. What a good strategy is it's a coherent set of policies and actions, and it's aimed towards something very, very specific. So usually it's like a competitive advantage you have, or an opportunity in the market, or let's say a weakness that you might have that you're trying to strengthen. It's aimed at that particular thing, and because you can't just say, oh, I'm gonna be good at everything. You can't be good at everything. You have to have a focus on one particular thing, which is the crux. That's the name of the book. And you have to have a coherent set of policies and actions directed towards that crux so that it will make a difference.
Yeah.
And you don't know if the strategy is going to work or not, right? So
I love this. And as you know, like just spending a decade within strategy and operations, like I love strategy. I'm a strategy nerd. And what I have noticed working with organizations with strategy. And at the beginning, I knew nothing about strategy. I worked in strategy, but I knew nothing about strategy.
Right.
And what I realized is that the people that were above me had no idea what strategy was all about. And the people that I was working with my clients had no idea what strategy is about. And only after I left the firm did I actually understand what strategy is.
Okay.
To me, strategy is energy. Strategy is an imaginary theory that sets people on fire. I believe that strategy is only two things. Is actually what you actually mentioned. You're saying it's a list of policies combined with the action towards a particular goal.
Yes.
My belief is strategy is two things. It's one, a set of choices, and number two, it's energy. Choices because you have, in order to change, you have to make choices.
Okay.
And number two is that you need energy towards it. If you don't have energy towards what you're doing, energy is the 10,000 data points that show that you're committed. It is it's not what you put on the paper. It's like, how are you and everybody around you zeroed in and bringing that momentum towards this particular choice that you have.
Right.
That is what strategy is to me. And I can tell now, just being in every session, because I go to all these, like when I do a keynote, like I'm always in like these strategy sessions. I was just like in one a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And you can tell right away if a strategy is going to work or not. Is that everybody bought in? Is there like momentum towards it? Because they could have the right choices, but if you're not willing to go and put full energy towards it, you're not going to win. I'm going to send you a video that I saw last night, and I couldn't stop watching it. It was a speed skater, a Chinese speed skater, and because a lot of people talk about strategy in terms of business, but I think this is a really great example of a speed skater that took a bold strategy. In this speed skating race, it was a long race. It probably took like 11 laps or 13 laps to do.
Okay.
At the beginning of the race, everybody kind of they're actually going slow. They're actually kind of conserving their energy.
Sure. Okay.
What this woman did, she was 17-year-old, so I guess she's a girl. She was at the back of the pack, and everybody was kind of lazily sort of floating, skating. She took a bold move. She started sprinting. Like, She did an entire lap, and she actually lapped everybody, and she came back to the back. Now, normally people may have followed her, but because it was so odd, so inconceivable, that they didn't know what to do. They were paralyzed. So what she did was she came at the back of the group, and she just, for 10 rounds, she was at the back. And when they said the last lap, everybody, they kind of went into they're like, oh, last lap, I gotta go. Like, this is my lap.
Yeah.
But the person at the back was actually leading. They completely forgot that she'd already won the race, right? She was already leading the pack, but she was at the back of everyone, right? And to me, that is beautiful strategy because she took a choice. She said, I am going to sneak behind everybody and then go nuts. And it looks like a bad choice, but she made that choice. She poured energy into that choice and she committed it fully. And to me, that's what strategy is. It's taking a bold choice and going right up until the end to deliver that choice. Choice, energy. I got to show you this video. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that she had a teammate actually that also knew her strategy. And when everybody thought it was the last lap, she knew that it wasn't the last lap. So because, when you're in the last lap, you try to like dive. Everybody was diving and they slowed down when there was actually another lap to go because everybody was confused. They're like, wait, I thought this was the last lap, but it wasn't, because when the last person comes through, that's when it indicates it's the last lap. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, you got to watch this video. It's crazy. So choice, energy. And I believe that that's what strategy is all about. So I guess the dangerous idea here is, do you think strategy is dead when it comes to management consulting?
No.
You think it's alive and well?
Strategy is hard work.
Yeah.
As you can see.
There you go.
Right? Organizations, like you said, don't know how to do strategy. Senior leaders don't know how to do strategy. I mean, if they got this framework, it doesn't mean that they know how to do strategy.
Yeah.
They still need to do the hard work of making the choice.
Yeah.
And inside that choice, and I don't disagree, I think absolutely, like, you can boil it down into choice and energy. But inside that choice, there's a lot of other things there. So you need to identify the crux, right? You need to identify what is your strength. You need to identify how is the market changing or adapting, or is there an opportunity, or is there a weakness that you need to shore up, whatever it is. So you need to identify what that is. And it's hard because there's so many things, right? If you were the CEO, you polled your senior leaders, all the C-suite, and you said, hey, what do we need to do in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to come back with, hey, you know what, we think our supply chain or whatever needs to be shored up. We need, IT needs to be, infrastructure needs to be upgraded, whatever it is, right? And so you as a senior leader, or you as the senior leadership team, need to make a decision on what you want to do, right?
Love this.
So
listen, I love that you brought this to the table, the crux. Everybody has to read it. Listen, I really appreciate you coming on. There's a whole bunch of other topics that I want to get to.
Round three.
It's going to be incredible. But I really appreciate you coming on. Dangerous Ideas. Rate, subscribe, follow, whatever you got to do. Where's the best place people can find you and your writing?
I would say Medium, probably.
Medium.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Look up Wang Yip on Medium or LinkedIn. He's putting some amazing thoughts together. Wang, thank you so much for coming on Dangerous Ideas.
Thank you.
Okay.